Imagine there's a tiny switch inside your brain, a switch that once turned on your clarity, your focus, your memory, instantly. And imagine that over the years, that same switch started to feel stiff, slower, harder to activate. Maybe this feels familiar. A name slipping away for no reason, a thought that feels foggy, a sentence that refuses to come out. Most people assume this is just getting older, but one specialist made an unexpected observation. There's a specific forgotten vitamin that acts like the oil this switch desperately needs, and almost no one over 60 is getting enough of it. When the brain finally receives this vitamin again, the change can feel almost like someone turned the lights back on. If you're over 60, you've probably noticed something subtle happening in your mind. Not every day, but often enough to make you wonder. A moment of hesitation when trying to remember a familiar name, a pause mid-sentence as if your brain suddenly hit a tiny speed bump, or that strange feeling of mental fog that wasn't there years ago. For many people, these moments arrive quietly, almost politely, and slowly become the new normal. Maybe you've even blamed yourself for it, thinking, I just need to concentrate more. But concentration isn't the problem, and it never was. What's actually happening inside the brain is far more mechanical than emotional. It's like the system that once powered your sharp thinking is running low on something essential, something small, often overlooked and rarely discussed. And when that deficiency builds up, clarity fades. You're not losing your mind. Your brain is asking for support that almost no one realizes they need to give it. For decades, people have been told a quiet, damaging lie. Memory loss is just part of aging. But that belief has left millions feeling defeated long before they should. The truth is far more hopeful. The brain doesn't simply shut down after 60. It adapts. It protects. It slows certain processes only when it lacks the raw materials it once had in abundance. And here's the surprising part. The most important raw material your brain may be missing isn't a rare supplement or a new medication. It's a basic vitamin, one so fundamental that your cells literally cannot produce certain neurotransmitters without it. When this vitamin runs low, your brain isn't failing. It's conserving energy. That foggy feeling, that slow recall, that split second of confusion, they're not proof of decline, they are signals. Signals that your brain is working harder with fewer tools, like an engine trying to run on the last drops of fuel. Most adults over 60 never connect the dots because no one taught them to. They assume forgetfulness means the beginning of the end, when in reality, the problem is often a deficiency that can be supported gently, naturally, and effectively. Aging doesn't take away your clarity, but ignoring what your brain needs eventually does. Here's the hopeful truth most people never hear. When this forgotten vitamin is restored, the brain often responds faster than expected. Memory sharpens, focus steadies, thoughts feel smoother, clearer, almost lighter. It's not magic, and it's not a miracle cure. It's simply giving the brain the cofactor it has been quietly waiting for. A small molecule with a big job, helping your neurons communicate the way they used to. And the most encouraging part? You don't need dramatic changes to feel a difference. Just a small, consistent shift, the right nutrient at the right time, can support the very systems that age tends to wear down. If you've been feeling that mental dimming, stay with me, because understanding this vitamin could be one of the most empowering steps you take for your brain after 60. After 60, the brain undergoes changes that are completely natural, but deeply misunderstood. Most people imagine brain aging as a slow fading, like a light bulb losing power. But the truth is far more mechanical and far more hopeful. Inside your brain, billions of neurons communicate through tiny chemical messengers. These messages rely on speed, energy, and a steady supply of nutrients. And here's where the shift happens. As we age, the brain becomes less efficient at producing certain neurotransmitters and less effective at generating clean, stable cellular energy. Think of it like the wiring in an older house. The structure is still strong, the rooms are still there, the lights still work, but the system behind the walls needs more support than it once did. If the wiring doesn't get what it needs, the lights may flicker, not because the house is failing, but because the current isn't flowing as smoothly. The same is true for the aging brain. And the irony? One of the key molecules required to keep that electrical communication running smoothly is dependent on the very vitamin that most adults stop getting enough of after midlife. So when memory feels slower, when focus feels scattered, when clarity feels dimmer, it's not because your brain is disappearing. It's because the system is asking for something it once had plenty of. And the moment that missing piece is restored, the entire network can begin to stabilize again. Here's the part almost no one talks about. The biggest mistake people make after 60 isn't ignoring their memory. It's assuming their diet is still giving them what their brain needs. As we age, two things happen quietly. First, the body becomes less efficient at absorbing certain nutrients, especially the ones required for nerve function and neurotransmitter production. Second, the modern diet has shifted so far from whole, nutrient-dense foods that many essential vitamins simply aren't present in meaningful amounts anymore. It's not your fault. You can eat normally, even healthy, and still miss this one vitamin almost entirely. And because the deficiency develops slowly, the signs appear gradually. A little more mental fatigue here, a little more forgetfulness there. Most people shrug it off, thinking, it's just age. But it's not age. It's a nutritional gap that keeps widening. This overlooked vitamin is the perfect example. It's inexpensive, essential, and deeply tied to how your brain processes information. Yet it has nearly vanished from the average diet, which raises one simple question. What happens when someone finally restores it? I still remember a patient I saw last year, Margaret, 67. She came to me looking worried, though she tried to hide it. "I'm losing my words," she said. "Not all the time, just enough to scare me." As she spoke, I noticed something familiar. The long pauses, the searching for names, the quiet frustration. Many people assume this is the beginning of cognitive decline, but in Margaret's case, it didn't look like that. It looked like something else I've seen many times, a silent nutritional gap. So I asked her gently, "Has anyone ever checked whether your brain is getting the vitamins it actually needs to think clearly?" She shook her head. I suggested she start supporting one specific vitamin, the same one most people her age are unknowingly low in. 3 weeks later, she returned with a small smile. "Doctor, I feel sharper, not perfect, but sharper." And I knew exactly why. So what is this forgotten vitamin that so many people over 60 are running low on? The one that quietly supports memory, focus, and clear thinking. Vitamin B1, often known as thiamine. It's not trendy, it's not marketed aggressively, and yet it plays a role so fundamental that without it, your brain struggles to turn fuel into usable energy. Thiamine acts like a starter key. It helps activate the very pathways your neurons rely on to send clear, fast signals. When levels drop, even slightly, mental clarity can fade, words feel harder to retrieve, and thinking becomes slower and heavier. Here's the surprising part. Many adults after 60 absorb thiamine far less efficiently than they did in their younger years. Add modern eating habits, reduced appetite, certain medications, and lower digestive acid, and deficiency becomes almost inevitable. This is why so many people experience mild cognitive slowing without realizing there's a biochemical reason behind it. When the brain finally receives enough thiamine again, those neural pathways don't just function, they brighten. Thoughts feel smoother, focus becomes steadier, memory feels reachable again. It's not about boosting the brain, it's about giving it back something essential it quietly lost over time. To understand why thiamine matters so much after 60, imagine your brain as a city at night. Every thought, memory, and idea is a light turning on somewhere in that city, a spark of activity. But those lights can only shine if the power grid is strong. Thiamine is part of that power grid. Your brain uses it to turn glucose, your main source of mental fuel, into clean, usable energy. Without enough thiamine, the brain still tries to function, but it's like asking a city to run on a flickering generator instead of a stable power plant. Here's what happens when thiamine runs low. Neural signals slow down. Messages between neurons lose speed. making recall and concentration feel harder. Mental endurance decreases. You can think, but not for as long or with the same sharpness. Neurotransmitter production becomes less efficient. Your brain struggles to make the chemicals that help you stay focused, calm, and mentally balanced. Cognitive fog increases. The brain compensates by slowing non-essential functions, which is why thoughts can feel heavy or delayed. But here's the empowering part. When thiamine levels rise again, the effect can feel like turning the main breaker back on. The brain suddenly has the fuel it needs to power the networks of memory and focus. Neurons fire more cleanly, thoughts move more freely. Clarity returns in small but meaningful waves. It doesn't reverse aging. It supports the systems that aging quietly weakens. For many adults over 60, this feels like getting back a part of themselves they thought was gone forever. Now that you know what thiamine does for the brain, the next question becomes simple. How can someone over 60 start supporting healthy levels in a realistic, everyday way? The good news is that you don't need complicated routines. You just need consistency. 1. Start with small, thiamine-rich foods. Most people don't realize that certain everyday foods can provide meaningful amounts of B1, especially when added regularly. Beans and lentils, sunflower seeds, whole grains, peas, fortified cereals, lean pork. But here's the catch. Many older adults naturally eat less than they used to, which means even these foods may not provide enough on their own. 2. Pay attention to signs your body may need more support. These aren't diagnoses, just gentle clues that thiamine may be running low. Mental fatigue that comes earlier in the day, increased forgetfulness, trouble finding words, mild irritability or restlessness, brain fog that lifts and returns unpredictably. If these feel familiar, you're not alone. 3. Consider your daily habits. Certain lifestyle patterns can quietly use up more thiamine than expected, such as high sugar consumption, chronic stress, frequent alcohol intake, reduced stomach acid, very common after 60. Each of these increases the body's demand for B1.4. Talk with a healthcare provider if you want to explore supplementation. Many adults choose a small daily thiamine supplement, but guidance is always important, especially if medications or health conditions are involved. 5th, consistency is the real magic. Thiamine works best when it's steady. Even modest intake, repeated daily, can give your brain the raw material it needs to support clarity again. Think of it as feeding your neurons, slowly, gently, but effectively. Think of your brain as a lamp you've owned for decades, one that has lit your home, your conversations, your thoughts, your memories. Over time, the bulb didn't burn out. It just started receiving less power. The dimming wasn't a failure, it was a signal. When thiamine levels drop, the brain does the same thing that lamp does. It lowers its brightness to conserve energy. Not because it's broken, but because it's protecting itself. And this is the part most people never hear. When the power supply is restored, even gradually, the light doesn't just return, it returns with a steadiness that feels familiar. A clarity you thought you had lost comes back into focus. Many adults fear that mental slowing means they're losing themselves, but often the truth is much gentler. The mind isn't fading, it's waiting for the fuel it once had, the spark it quietly depended on, the vitamin that helped keep its signals crisp. Supporting thiamine isn't about turning you into someone new, it's about letting you be fully you again. A brighter lamp doesn't change the room, it simply lets you see what was always there. When someone over 60 begins supporting their thiamine levels, the changes are often subtle at first, almost like the mind is stretching awake after a long nap. Maybe you've felt it once or twice yourself. A morning when your thoughts feel a little sharper, a conversation where words come a bit more easily, a moment when you realize you're following a story or task without drifting. These aren't coincidences. They're early signs that your brain is receiving the fuel it has been missing. And the beautiful part? These small improvements tend to build on each other. As neural energy stabilizes, focus improves. As focus improves, memory follows. As memory strengthens, confidence grows. it becomes a quiet upward spiral, one that many people don't expect to experience after 60. This isn't about reversing time. It's about supporting your brain in the present so it can continue giving you the clarity, presence, and peace you deserve. Stay with me, because if you're feeling even a spark of hope right now, that spark matters more than you think. If you've listened this far, it means something in this message resonated with you. Maybe a moment of fog, a spark of clarity, or simply the hope that your mind can feel brighter again. And you deserve that hope. You deserve a brain that supports you, not one that leaves you worried or uncertain. So if this video helped you understand your mind a little better, I'd love for you to stay with us. We create content designed specifically for people over 60. Simple steps, real science, and practical tools to protect your energy, your memory, and your independence. Subscribe so you don't miss the routines, nutrients, and daily habits that can truly make a difference. Give this video a like. It helps more people your age discover information that could change their days too. And if you feel comfortable, type the word clarity in the comments. Not for the algorithm, but as a reminder to yourself that you're choosing a clearer, stronger, more confident future. Your brain is still capable of so much. Let's take care of it together.